So,
There you go.
Tommy's fired. In case you don't know, I don't know how we're gonna put this on like the audio after the fact, or anybody that
make it
just
work.
happens to catch the first like 9 minutes of that other part of this episode. But
We'll make it work.
basically, we were on a roll. All right, I had done my promo for the Signia Hotel. We had gotten into everything. We talked about what we were going to be talking about. Tommy jumped on and he gave his 2 cents about the Rooted in the Stripes video, and he left the studio and shut the whole stream off. So here we are again.
We're back.
Tommy's fired, and we're going to continue on our merry way.
Suspend it from the show.
Good stuff, Tommy. We love you, buddy. You're also fired.
Sorry about that, everybody. But no, yeah, I had a little glitch there. It happens, but
it be what it be.
Yeah, but no, Tommy will be back with us next week.
Yeah.
So he just needed a couple days, or not a couple days, but he'll be back with us next week to talk.
He's gonna figure out how to work a telephone.
Yeah, exactly.
Going back to the conversation. Damn it, Tommy.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the Rooted in the Stripes video? Take two.
Yeah. No. First off, great job by the Atlanta United social media team on putting that together. I feel like there's a misconception about fans that, or among fans that, players just kind of sneak into a shell whenever a game is lost. And you saw Gazan kind of give a team talk after the loss to Cincinnati. You saw Dex kind of speak up and say, hey, I know I haven't been here for a while, but I feel I need to speak up. And I don't think it was, just putting on for the cameras, but I feel like there is significant, legitimate emotions going into that. So it was really good to see that from the team, and really good to see people speaking up. I feel like people speak up every match. I don't want to feel like it's just like just that specific match people spoke up, but it's good to see that. The Pineda, really a show of emotion that we haven't seen from him before. He's an incredibly nice guy. Well, he was an incredibly nice guy. We've talked about this on the show when we dealt with him with the media when he was here. Very accommodating, very nice. You see kind of those outbursts of anger on the sideline, as you see with every coach in MLS, but you've never seen it in the player in a locker room setting. And I feel like, again, this video really opened things up to fans and showed what it's like in the losing locker room. So again, kudos, shout out to the social media team on putting that together. Just what are your thoughts? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, by the way, the U.S. is starting this one off hot. I don't know if y'all saw, if anybody's watching versus Brazil right now, but they've had a couple of good opportunities 5 minutes in. So anyway, and try to give updates throughout the show. So I think, first of all, kudos not only for putting that kind of content out and kind of being transparent and letting fans just kind of see the inner workings, even if it's just the bare, minimum that you can put out, because you can't go putting that kind of stuff out on a regular basis. But kudos and just the quality of it. It was really, really good. It always is. They have a great team. So shout out to them. But I mean, how many people over the past 2 years, really, on Spaces, on our show, on various other outlets and everywhere else said, we want to see, like Tommy said before he killed the stream, we want to see angry Pineda. Well, you got to see it in that one. You got to see it. You got to see very emotional Gonzalo Pineda. And, you had making that kind of documentary, making that kind of episode, it could have gone two ways. Obviously now looking back, Gonzalo Pineda's fired.
Yeah.
Rob Valentino's taken over, and so now you're looking at it from a sense of, he came in, he showed everybody, I think, what they wanted to see in terms of the, the emotion, the passion, the flipping tables, the kicking NM objects on the floor.
Right.
saying that, we have the best fans in the world and we deserve to be booed right now after one of the matches. Like he got into it. Seeing Noah Cobb step up, seeing, a young guy like him, Dax McCarty, stepping in and saying, hey, I'm the new guy, but I've been around the block a little bit, so I'm not worried about stepping on toes anymore. We got to fix this. So like I loved every little bit of it. The inverse of that would have been had the season suddenly turned around, then it would have made Pineda look like
a genius.
A genius. Yeah, it would have made him look really, really good. So, it was being made regardless. It just it's unfortunate, for Gonzo and his staff and their families. I've said it again, last week, but it's just an unfortunate situation. So, but it was nice to be able to see that transparency from the team and see what they're about.
I'll have this super quick. It brought to mind when you're talking about Noah. It brought to mind what Pineda said about sort of that core of guys that were really vocal, really spoke up. One of them was quote unquote young, to quote what he was saying. And I kind of thought when he said it, no, he's probably talking about Noah. He didn't mention any names, but I thought he's probably talking about Noah. And it lines up with what Derek Williams has said about him, what other players have said about him. I feel like a guy like Noah can become that vocal leader for Atlanta United. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's still new to the league, but he's shown it on the pitch that he could be a really strong center back, not just in the league, but maybe in the national team level already, getting youth international experience. But as he gets older, as he continues to grow into this role, as he continues to get his feet underneath him, no pun intended, he's going to be even more of a leader, I think. And I think that you have to kind of pick your spots, of course, but I think a player like Noah has proven that he can step in there and kick guys' spots if they need it. So that's really good to see and hear from Noah particularly. And I think the fact that he was not afraid to do it in the moment that the team was in speaks a lot about not just him, but the amount of this kind of respect the team has in him. He's not just some punk kid coming in. He has something to say and he can back it up. So
and I've got
to throw in there real quick.
Yeah, I've got nothing but mad respect for Noah Cobb for standing up that way. But also, it more than the football. I said it this morning on Soccer Down Here. It speaks more to just how he was raised, right? It's not just about the football stuff, but about you have a group of people that are your family essentially, and you can stand up and say the hard things at times, and good for him. So, with all that being said, we're going to transition because of Tommy's flub earlier. We're going to be joined here by Tony Husband, who is calling the game this weekend, former Nashville commentator and just all over the place in terms of the sports world. But Tony, what's going on?
Hey, Tony.
Good evening, fellas. How you doing?
We're doing better. This has probably been the most technically challenged episode we've ever done. I'm going to call him out. Our co-host just came on for 2 seconds because he was off today, and when he left, he shut the whole stream down.
Well, I have no trouble connecting, so it's great to be talking Atlanta again, and looking forward to being down in Georgia this weekend and trying to get a little bit of a pulse on kind of how things are going, and obviously looking from not too far away on how the season has gone, and certainly not how I would have predicted it if we go back to February. So it's interesting times. So and it's going to be, I think, quite an interesting game this weekend as well.
Yeah. So it's funny because we've been through so many of the commentators for Apple TV now, and I think you haven't called many overall. Is this your first one ever?
No, it is the first one this season. But I was down in Atlanta last season for the game against Montreal, and also did the game at Yankee Stadium, I think, against New York City on the road. And obviously, from my previous incarnation with Nashville, obviously we had quite a few clashes down the years as well. So definitely, but it's always good to see. The stadium is unbelievable. I think it's just one of the world's best stadiums. I'm hoping to see a reasonably good crowd. And I know the home form has been poor. All the form has been poor. But let's hope to see a good crowd in there this weekend. I mean, I think I've been blessed though this weekend because we'll be inside, which is probably the best place to be with what looks like the weather's going to be very, very warm across the country for all these teams playing. So we will at least be lucky to be inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
That AC is going to hit nice when you walk.
Yeah, it will.
So just diving into it, just since it is your first one this year, what are your impressions of both teams going into it?
Well, it'll be my first time seeing both of them, actually, which is, I think they're just about two of the last teams that I haven't actually seen in the flesh this season. And I mean, when you look at Atlanta, I saw the tail end of last season and through into the playoffs and thought, this is a team that now this year takes the next step forward. Everybody hails the transfer work that was done last summer and the additions that seem to be taking this team on to the next level, and it all seemed poised to be in a good place. So I am surprised, like most people probably, that Atlanta have struggled as much as they have. I mean, to lose 6 in 9, I think it's 6 without a win at home now. Yeah. And if you're not winning home games in MLS, you've got a problem because winning on the road is so difficult traditionally. So I'm surprised with that. Obviously, there's a lot going on. It looks like Giakoumakis is now gone. And this weekend, you could be a bit short-handed at the back as well, just with injuries, unavailabilities. And the likes, of course, of Lobodenice are away as well now with the Euros coming around the corner. So it's going to be interesting to see just how Rob Valentino can actually put out the best 11 that you have available to try and start things going again and get on the right foot. And when I look at Houston, very impressed. Again, they've not had the best of runs, really. They were going well early in the season, classic kind of MLS form, really. Started well. They'd had the CONCACAF Champions Cup games earlier in the season. And then they've stuttered a bit, but they look like they might be just kind of getting themselves back on form a little bit. They're great to watch, like the football they play. Thought they played some super stuff in their last game up in Portland, and could easily have come away from there with a victory. So from a footballing standpoint, I think this should be a really good game.
So Tony, we already mentioned you haven't had too many matches with Atlanta United while on MLS Season Pass, but of course you called many Atlanta United Nashville matches when you're regional commentator for Nashville. What have your interactions been like with Gonzalo Pineda when he was the head coach?
Very good. I thought he was outstanding to deal with. Incredibly helpful, enlightening on his team. Just gave you every courtesy. And I think, most of the coaches, all of the coaches give up their time in MLS. Some you feel, just really give you, a lot of respect and courtesy. And I would say Gonzalo was really one of those. And so from a personal standpoint, very sorry to see him, lose his job because he was just thoroughly decent to deal with. And in our interactions with him, always excellent. But ultimately, his time is not going to be looked back upon as overly successful or successful at all, right? Because this is about getting results, and there is an expectation level at Atlanta that is far superior to some other places in this league. And the results weren't there, and you felt something was moving close to breaking point in recent weeks. I mean, the Miami game maybe just made everybody think, oh, hang on a minute, maybe they're getting things right. Wonderful result, but then to lose at home and to lose to Charlotte as well, in something of an emerging rivalry game as well, is never a good thing. And if, as I said before, if you can't get home results, then you're going to be in trouble in this league. So I'm not overly surprised ultimately that Gonzalo's moved on.
So sort of on that same coin, Gary Smith, who you had gotten to know very well during your time in Nashville, of course, getting the sack earlier this season. As someone who the two of you have built a strong relationship with each other over the past several years, was your reaction to when he was sacked, and not just from a personal standpoint, from a professional standpoint as well?
On Gary Smith, yes. I mean, I think he did a phenomenally good job in Nashville. I think he's one of those managers who his legacy is often better than it maybe feels right at the time. I think that in years to come, people will look back on Gary Smith's Nashville and what he achieved with the team, and history will write him up extremely well. It ought to, because he brought a team in with a roster that, going into that 2020 season, was billed as being the team that would finish bottom of actually what was going to be the Western Conference that season. They were going to play in the West, and everybody had written them off. They then had to encounter a start against Atlanta, which was never going to be easy, with a team that was still coming together. Walker Zimmerman had only signed 3 days or something before. Lose that game, lose in Portland on the road, and then they don't play till August. And he navigated that group through to, by the end of that season, they were not a million miles away from being an MLS Cup team, as extraordinary as that might sound to say it. I was actually talking to Caleb Porter just a couple of weeks ago, who's now at New England and was the Columbus Crew boss in that 2020 season. And he actually said they pushed Columbus really, really hard in a playoff game. He said, if they'd beaten us in that game, I think they would have gone on and won it. And what an incredible story that would have been. And that was 2020. And then really he turned Nashville into serial playoff contenders. He turned them into a team that ultimately, when they beamed to Atlanta and managed to win in recent years and beaten Atlanta at home, always good games, by the way, the Nashville-Atlanta games, but that, has really, really grown. He's got the best out of Hani Mukhtar and numerous other players as well. So I have a lot of time for what Gary Smith did in Nashville. Again, things sometimes just reach perhaps their natural point where it's time for all parties to move on. That'll be how some will see it. Nashville's last game, though, it was a difficult one. And Gary, obviously having moved on, and you were still seeing some of the problems that were associated with the team in Gary's last games. So they have a big appointment to make as well. So we have 2 big clubs in the South now, looking for new head coaches. But Gary, hopefully, we'll see back in the league at some point, because I think he certainly merits another role in the league.
Yeah.
And he gave them a very distinct identity, right? And sometimes that's what you ask for, because at least the play was consistent. I think Leagues Cup last year definitely it felt like it broke something in Nashville at the end. But they, like you said, they were perennial contenders, right? They gave you a fight wherever they were at, regardless. So it was. I'm going to throw a receipt out there. He was actually the one, though, that I saw getting fired first. I did not see Pineda getting fired second. But nothing but respect for him, for sure. I thought, he especially going from into the league in such a tough time as well, and giving them a stellar identity to work with, was really cool to see. So,
I think when it's kind of foundations as well, that's why I say, I think sometimes he's a coach that I think falls into that bracket that soccer fans often, the phrase "be careful what you wish for" is the kind of the optimal phrase.
Yeah.
It's there can be frustrations. There can be times where you think, we want to see better, we want to see more flowing football, we want to see this, we want to see that. But fundamentally, most of the time, he won. And that's what fans want to really see.
Yep.
And of course, as with all coaches, the wins, they started to slow up a little bit. They were replaced by draws and defeats. And as I said, sometimes he had 7 years in Nashville when you include the USL years. Yep. So that's a long time in the modern era to be the head coach of a club.
It really is. So talking about some of those Atlanta, Nashville games, and just in general, the Southeast, you've been all over, you've been covering all the games. How do some of these, I guess, we don't have names specific for them, but some of these like Southeastern derbies, how do they match up compared to other places in the country?
Very, very well indeed, I would say. I mean, I think of the Atlanta Nashville games in particular that I've been at. They're always a good game. I can remember a game where there was a rain delay in Nashville.
I was there.
And I mean, what a night that was! And yet, it still had us on the edge of our seats, and the game didn't finish till nearly midnight. And
like a 3-hour delay. That was rough.
And it finished. It finished with a late goal for Atlanta. Beautifully worked goal that
Dom Dwyer.
Dom Dwyer. Lovely finish in the 6-yard box. 2-2. I mean, I look at it a bit more from the national perspective, and I think that they got a kind of bit of a redemption victory in September 2020 when they beat Atlanta 4-1 in front of an empty Nissan Stadium. Could not have been a greater contrast, obviously, with the very first game here in that February. And everyone who was there, I was not there for that because I didn't get my visa through in time to move over from the UK. But I was watching it back in the UK, but everyone who was there also, picks out on just what a role the Atlanta fans played in that game that night. A lot traveled from Georgia, I know, and played a big part in making that such a successful first night. And then, bring Charlotte into the mix. Charlotte and Atlanta, every time I seem to watch it, it's a pretty good game. It's a game with a lot of ebb and flow in it. There's been a lot of incident. not least of which, of course, in the most recent game.
Yeah.
So, these are really good games. And what a great time this is, for this region and for soccer in the area, because Atlanta obviously have just hit the heights in so many ways in MLS, even if results-wise the club has kind of wobbled a bit in the last few years. But, you've set the standard in so many other ways when it comes to support, fan base, facilities, and ambition. And I'm sure that, we'll get your just reward, and the good times are going to be, not too far away again. So Southeastern soccer is in a very, very good place, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. And it's incredible to see even what it's been like since Atlanta United itself entered the league. Of course, Nashville and then Charlotte, only up from here, I feel.
Yeah, and look at I just say that if you look at Atlanta playing in front of 40,000 plus most games. Charlotte are getting 30,000 plus most games and have the ability to bring in 60, 70,000, like you do. And Nashville playing in the largest soccer specific stadium in the country, and can pull in 30,000 and do so on a fairly regular basis, So the numbers are there. And, I think that's a fantastic thing to think about when you think of the Southeastern soccer right now.
Yeah, for sure. So we're almost, well, not almost, but we are past the midway point of the MLS season. It's hard to imagine. It feels like it's just started.
Yeah.
But most teams are 16, 17 matches into the year. When you look back at the 2024 MLS season thus far, you've called most of your games, of course, with Rod Smith. What are probably some of the more memorable matches you've called this season?
Well, I would say that we've been fortunate enough to see Columbus Crew 4 or 5 times, and they're just a tremendous team to watch, full stop. So any game you have with Columbus is an enjoyable one to see. They've played some fantastic football at times, some of the best that I think this league has ever seen, and certainly in recent years. Disappointing that obviously events went against them in Pachuca, because I think that would have been just a tremendous kind of cap for this team and what they've achieved in MLS and what they've done in the region if they had been able to win that final. I sense there'll be a lot more talk about events around that final for years to come, probably. But now that of course has had a little bit of an impact on some of their league form. I've seen LA Galaxy a few times. They are now a tremendous team to watch offensively. Ricky Puig is pulling the strings, of course. Paintsill has been a great arrival. Peck has been good as well. They've got more recruits potentially, of course, on the way. There's talk of Royce coming in. So Galaxy have been good to see. And the other team I've actually seen quite a bit of is the Portland Timbers, who are having this a bit of an existence of kind of their position in the standings doesn't look great. But actually, there's quite a lot of promise there, because when Evander is on it, he's one of the best players and best tens in the league. We've actually been fortunate enough to be in the booth for some of his amazing goals. I mean, we saw him pull one out of the hat at the last minute in New York to win against NYC on a rainy day in March, and then down on a hot night in Austin 2 weeks ago, he bends a free kick in from kind of 30 yards out, which you think this it's unlikely he can get this in from here, and it was just tremendous. And it was a wonderful shot from behind where you see just how far he starts it outside the post and bends it in. So look out for the Portland Timbers to be a kind of explosive kind of team as the season goes on over in the West. But I think in the East, I've seen Charlotte quite a lot. I mean, they scored 3 in Atlanta. I don't need to remind you of that. But and apologies for just doing so.
It's okay.
We're fine.
But actually, the thing that I think about when I think about Charlotte right now is just how organized and structured they have become. They don't give a lot away when they're playing at home. They're the kind of team that is going to grind teams down and win games kind of 1-0, 2-1, team, things like that. And I'm interested to see the resurgence of New York City as well, because after a bad start and thinking Nick Cushing could be on the hot seat, they really seem to have come right. But that actually stands to reason with a lot of what other coaches have told us about New York City, that they feel even early in the season when teams were beating them, they felt they were one of the best looking teams in the way they were playing that they faced. So, I mean, we managed to do all of that without mentioning Miami. Miami is Miami. I mean, I think the most fascinating thing that is going to be what kind of Miami are we going to see the next 6 weeks? I think that will be really interesting.
we mentioned Miami a lot, obviously, who doesn't at this point, but our theory was they were going to come out hot and then kind of taper off. I mean, it just being fair. I mean, you got guys that they're legends for sure, but they're up there, they're up there in age. And, but I think out of the ones that you mentioned, for me, the Galaxy, such a stark contrast from last year to this year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wild. And then, New York City. I remember when Atlanta played them up at Citi Field this year, and Atlanta had a pretty good result, but that was when they were kind of just turning the corner. And since then they've been on fire, and kind of glad, we got that game out of the way, at least up there. But Atlanta plays the Galaxy later this year in LA, and that one's not one I'm looking forward to.
No. I think you're right. And, but the Galaxy, where you will potentially have a chance to seize on their weaknesses, their back line, Yoshida and Cáceres, when they play that pair, if Jalen Neal doesn't play, they're a combined age of about 150. So, no, actually 73, I think it is, something like that. So, it'll be interesting, again, stamina-wise, how they can cope for the rest of the season. I think Neal will come in and play more. I mean, Yoshida and actually Cáceres, I saw them both play in Europe. I saw Yoshida play for a long time. Yoshida actually was always a kind of impact substitute in the Premier League or a fill-in kind of position. So he's still got plenty of minutes in his legs, alongside all those many minutes he's played for Japan, and is a fine reader of the game. But, I think that's going to be the interesting thing, isn't it? When people say to me, what do you think is different from kind of here to Europe? One of the first things I always talk about is travel and climate. You just cannot underestimate the air miles that the teams in MLS do, and also the climates. Here we are about to go into a weekend where almost everybody in the league, it looks like, is going to be playing in 90-degree days, apart from the lucky ones who are in Atlanta.
Well, you mentioned Europe, so we got to ask: is it coming home this summer?
Well, I gather John Stones has been eating some of the Columbus Crew lasagna, by the sounds of it, because he's now doubtful for. He's been quarantined in the team camp in Germany ahead of the game against Serbia. Look, I think England have been consistently in a better place in tournaments under Gareth Southgate than any time really since the days of the late Bobby Robson. In terms of actually how far we've gone, and a nod to Terry Venables taking us to the 96 semi-finals. But the question I have, I guess, for this England group is, can we just go that next level? I mean, I think we're one up in the Euro final, and I texted my friends in England, we're 5 minutes into the game, and I said, here we go, we're going to be defending for the next 85 minutes, because I felt that would be the strategy at that point to go on and win that game. And I didn't think we would do that, and sure enough, we didn't. We might just need to take the shackles off a little bit and try and be a little bit more expansive within the structure that Gareth Southgate plays. I mean, Southgate's been tremendous. This could be his last tournament for us, so it's all out. We have prime Harry Kane still. We have a Jude Bellingham, who's one of the best players now in the world. And we are producing more good young players that are coming into this group. And it's surprising that Grealish didn't make it into the final group. I would have liked to have seen him there. I would have liked to have seen James Maddison. I think he's a wonderful player. But that goes to show just how strong this England group is. Winning a tournament, though, on the continent, England have not proved terribly successful at doing that. We still, to this day, don't have a great record when we play the very, very elite teams in knockout, either World Cup or European Championship games. We don't have a great record in those matches. So we shall see. But, I'm hopeful that we'll be in there in the mix. But as always, we're very used to a bit of a glorious failure.
Is there any other teams that you're like, besides England, that you think, all right, let me keep an eye on them, dark horses, anything like that?
Yes, I mean, I must admit, I think you have to obviously look at the French and the talent that they've rolled out. Germany on home soil, they're not a great team by German standards, but they're on home soil. So look, let's wait and see how far that can take them. And I think it's all the usual suspects. I was talking to Lutz Pfannenstiel, actually, the sporting director at St. Louis last week, who really has his finger on the pulse of global soccer, but obviously so many connections in Europe as well. And I mean, he very much felt that the winner will come from one of the established top teams. We're not likely to see a kind of Greece moment, in these Euros. But there we are. Just remember to keep this little clip, and in 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time, you can play it back. Play it back when Austria find themselves in the final or something.
Hey, don't sleep on Croatia, even though they're getting up in age.
I will never sleep on Croatian football, because those Balkan nations have just wonderful, skilled, technical footballers. They always have. And Croatia have been outstanding, and though their legs might be going in some of them, they produce great players, and they play very strongly together. When they come together for a tournament, dangerous.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it should be a fun tournament. So sort of bring it back a little bit closer home. Copa America starting this weekend. Argentina figures to be the favorite in this tournament. Do you see it that same way, or do you feel like there could be another team, maybe a Colombia, maybe a Uruguay that comes out, maybe Brazil, Colombia?
Well, I mean, Uruguay are the only team that have beaten Argentina, I think, since the World Cup, and did so well. But
Bielsa.
Absolutely, and Darwin Núñez, seems to like playing in a Uruguay shirt maybe more than he does in a Liverpool shirt at times. But I don't think you can look past Argentina. I think again, the narrative of Messi, a major tournament in North America here, the impact he made on Leagues Cup last year, coming into it and riding that wave all the way to the final, and you just sense that in what is kind of his for the moment adopted home, he would love to win Copa America with Argentina in the United States. So I'll see Argentina Friday night, actually, because I'm doing their game against Guatemala, their last warm-up friendly before Copa America, so I'll get another chance to look at them. But their roster, when I was going through it, it's really strong. They are the archetypal squad that's got two in every position. So they're going to be good. Obviously, Messi is a key, but there have also been some signs in recent games where they have to start thinking about a post-Messi world. And while he'll be front and center for this tournament, they've got players who can be game changers in this group as well. If they can't carry Messi all the way, and if he has to perhaps manage his minutes through the tournament, which is going to be one of the interesting subplots to this.
How do you reckon the U.S. do? I feel, if they don't get out of the group, that's a failure. I've heard some say they have to make it to the semifinal for it to be a success, especially with it being on their home soil. But how do you reckon they'll figure in the tournament?
Well, I really hope the U.S. men's national team performs well. I think, we're a couple of years out from the World Cup. That ultimately is really what Greg Berhalter needs this team to peak at. That is the tournament that will have the eyes of the world on it. Yeah. But this tournament's important. And of course, when your results leading up to it are poor, whether that's just in the box score or just on the eye test of watching the team play and how they're getting on, then it does put a bit of pressure on. Obviously, the US have the game in Orlando against Brazil, and suddenly now that becomes a bit of a pressure game, and yet it's still a friendly.
1-1 right now. So
there we go. So and I mean, Bolivia are not in a strong place right now. I watched their game against Argentina, World Cup qualifier, while I was preparing to do Argentina this Friday. Bolivia don't look a strong side at the moment. So if they bring much of that group through, that's a good opportunity to get a good start in the tournament. It is important that the US put up kind of a bit of a show at home. And they want to be, in and around those kind of final knockout stages. How far they can go, who knows? But it's just feels like it's got a bit more pressure on it, because I say this as an outsider looking at the US team, and as somebody who's watched so many England teams with promising groups and promising rosters fail to deliver. And, again, on paper, you look at the US group and it looks like one of the best groups on paper that has been produced for many years. You got a greater concentration of players who are playing in elite clubs, in elite leagues. So you think, well, surely they should come together. But I just don't see it too often yet from this US team. that when it comes together and it sticks and it feels right. Is it the system? Is it the players? Is it the coach? I don't know. I want to be convinced during Copa America that this is going in the right direction and that the team is on an upward trajectory. I'm not totally certain it is yet, but that is a humble Englishman's opinion watching the American team.
Hey, you preach it for sure.
Sounds like Atlanta United in some respects too.
Yeah, that's true.
To be honest,
it feels too conservative at points, and I'm not saying you need to go out there and just try to play transition football and run you guys into the ground nonstop. But I just feel like I think you said it actually a minute ago about the England team. Like you gotta loosen the shackles a little bit. And right now it just feels like it's a little too conservative going forward. So.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree. Something doesn't quite feel quite right with it, and they've got time. It's not no reason to be kind of in a panic stations or anything like that. But for that, I just think you want to see some signs of progress during this Copa America.
For sure.
And that does not mean it needs to be reaching the final, lifting the trophy, as great and fantastic as that would be. And who knows what happens in a tournament when you get some momentum? Who knows with the way the draw can pan out. But what you're really looking for is to look back at the end of Copa America in about a month's time. We want to be looking back and saying, we really do see the seeds now that is taking this team forward. And if we're not, I would be slightly concerned, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I want to cut you out of here. I want to be respectful of your time. We could do this all night.
I'd be happy to. No problem.
We'll definitely talk at the Benz for sure this weekend. We'll jump back into it. But I got to ask, completely off the topic of football, but as an Englishman living in the Southeast or being in the Southeast covering, games, do you have just one of those like favorite foods that has hit you really, really well since you've been in your time here? Is it the Nashville spicy chicken or is it something else?
I got to be honest. I've always been a kind of hot chicken fan, and Nashville hot chicken is as good as you can get. I would say, certainly they would say that in Nashville.
Right.
So a great fan of that. The great thing about the States is just the culinary choice that we have. But I must admit, moving over here, we have been quite influenced, obviously, by the proliferation of the ability to have Mexican food. So I eat way more Mexican food than I ever used to. So and I've learned to try and say tacos, not tacos, which is a kind of English way. So I'm really into at the moment fish tacos. Really enjoy those. So yes,
fish tacos.
Yeah, strongly influenced by that. And actually, I've got a trip to Kansas City next week. And they obviously are, famous for their barbecue as well. Yeah. So I'll be looking. I've already got that on the agenda for next week in Missouri or in Kansas. So I never know which side of the border I'm on there, but
Where can everybody find you at?
At Tony Husband on X, and obviously we have the game on MLS Season Pass this Saturday night. So Ross Smith will be with me, and we'll look forward to. Hopefully, it will be a really good football match.
Yeah.
From your mouth to God's ears.
All right.
Atlanta's favor, but let's go. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, man. We appreciate your time for sure.
Great to see you both, and fingers crossed. Obviously, the rest of the season for Atlanta, and I hope we see an upturn in form that the players and the talent you've got deserves.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Agreed.
We'll see you Saturday, hopefully.
Take care.
See you.
Tony Husband will be on the call on Saturday. Yeah, like we said, talking about tacos, we have to pronounce it tacos instead of tacos. Like we say overseas.
They're all good. They're all good, however you pronounce them, for sure. So
yeah. Quick update, by the way. USA Brazil won the 41st minute. Pulisic scored.
Ball don't lie. Ball don't lie.
Social would say should have been a penalty. I'll have to see the replay, but 1-1.
Okay, I'll do a hot take right now.
Go ahead.
I know, and I see y'all in the chat. I see Matt. I see Omar. I see Derek. I see all y'all. I don't think it was a penalty. Again, ball don't lie. It was close for sure.
We'll have to look at it.
But clearly, the soccer gods thought it was, and that's why Pulisic went and scored 2 minutes later. So who cares?
Exactly.
Matt Turner, Matt in the chat definitely jinxed him for sure. I was watching that. I was laughing. I was trying not to laugh. Matt Turner was having a killer game. I mean, he 1v1 and blocked it. And then literally a minute later, he lets in one, and it was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough.
But yeah, I mean, it's not doing terribly. I mean, it's not going super bad right now. It's 1-1, but I say that.
It's a back and forth game. I mean, again, I haven't focused in on it, but it's been very back and forth. Both teams have had opportunities for sure.
Yeah, for sure. How are you feeling about Houston? Houston, we kind of look at their numbers. So they scored 17 and 15, but they scored 5 in the last 2. So maybe things are in the up and up. And by the way, speaking of Houston, we interviewed Glenn Davis, Houston Dynamo play-by-play announcer, probably one of the top voices in American soccer today. You'll find that on our YouTube channel on Thursday around 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., I should say. Or by the time you listen to this podcast, if you're listening on the podcast, it should be up.
Yeah, check out the YouTube channel tomorrow. And again, make sure you're subscribed, please. Yes. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. But just wanted to plug in that we have a Glenn Davis interview on YouTube.
And it's good. It's good because Glenn he's been covering obviously Houston for a very long time. He's been a part of US soccer in general, MLS in general for a very long time. So you'll get kind of a twofer this week.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah,
I got one thing real quick because Tommy ruined the stream earlier. I got to do it again. Copa America. We have our live shows coming up on the 20th and the 27th. So for the opener, Argentina versus Canada, and then the next Thursday, the U.S. versus Panama, not Ecuador, Panama. We're doing live shows for both. They're kicking off about 2 hours prior to actual kickoff, or at least listed kickoff in the stadium. We're going to go for about an hour, maybe a little bit more. We'll chat, talk, hang out. Everybody's going to be having fun. It's going to be busy. These games obviously are going to be packed. The Signia Hotel right next to Mercedes-Benz Stadium is the venue. It is the Nest on 4 bar.
4th floor of the Signia.
Go in wherever. Go in a door. Go to the escalators and go up to the 4th floor, and you will be right at the bar. You can come in. And they have a brand new menu. They crushed the old menu. They have a brand new one with some, what did I say earlier? Wagyu brisket nachos. Yeah, some steered tuna. I forget what it was, but we're gonna put the menu up. We actually have it, and
we'll have it social.
A banger. It is a banger of a menu. So
it looks good.
Yeah, y'all come out and hang out with us. Come out and hang out with us. I'm trying to work something out. Not advertising this yet. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I'm trying to work something out with one of the teams that are playing in the second game. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know if it's going to happen, so that's why I'm not giving more detail. But either way, just come out and maybe you'll be in for a surprise for the second game.
Interesting. So yeah, 20th and 27th Thursday nights, be there or be square.
Yes. Or Tommy your stream.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to Houston, 17 goals in I think 15 matches, I think it is, but 5 are the last 2. So maybe something is awakening in Nashville. I know they've had some injuries. Herrera's been injured, but he's back.
You mean Houston, not Nashville?
Houston. We just
I know we're all over the place.
Former Nashville voice. Yeah, Houston have had injuries. Herrera's out first few weeks of the season. Ferreira out with a hamstring. They're not getting goals. They're not getting goals from the people that are supposed to be scoring. Yeah, they scored, like we said, 5 of the last 2. So big question is Houston kind of on the come up just a little bit because they put the ball in the back of the net? They're tied for the 4th fewest goals allowed too. So they're not letting a lot in, but they're not scoring a lot. So that's something that Lenny United will have to look at. And we mentioned Pereira again. Has had an injury. He came back, but only 3 goal contributions, 1 goal, 2 assists after 11 assists last season. So what are you looking for? I feel like this has potential to be a little scoring affair. I feel like Atlanta, of course, with Valentino now back as an interim head coach, I feel like, I've never been a huge believer in the new coach bounce, but I feel like they'll be extra motivated in this match. But I still think it could be a low scoring match. And plus, they haven't won at the best in 6 tries. So that's going to be hanging over them as well. So I feel like there are several factors that could favor Atlanta.
Yeah, I agree. Edgar, I see you. Edgar's on a one-man campaign trying to get me to take Miguel Berry's spot at the LA Galaxy. Look, give me a TAM deal. That's all I ask for, and I'll come in hot. It ain't even got to be TAM. Just don't put me on the minimum. Put me over the minimum. We'll call it a day.
Right.
No, so Atlanta versus Houston. I mean, obviously, you're going to have a massive lineup shift for sure. So you got to think you're going to have to get something out of Noah Cobb coming in now, I think, because I know he's been down in Argentina, but he's young. And I think the Noah Cobb and Derek Williams pairing can work pretty well. I don't think Rob Valentino is going to come out and do anything super crazy in terms of changing around wholesale positional changes or doing anything crazy like that. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a fairly low scoring match because Houston's just been good defensively. They don't have a striker. Like hardly at all. Like there's actually barely one on the roster right now that can play. So, I mean, Noah and Derek with a little bit of Caleb, who's also going to be coming in on a little bit of short rest, not that bad. And then Brooks Lennon, I think they can handle that. I really do. And then of course you're going to have Dax, who is I said it on Soccer Down Here this morning. This is my hot take for the day. Dax McCarty is going to be the most important player in an Atlanta United jersey for the next 2 months. So there's your throw the receipt. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think for sure he's going to be the most important player.
Is that why he didn't get a lot of playing time at the beginning of the season? Because they knew that Leash would be at Euros. They wanted to preserve Dax, knowing he's older and knowing that they would have to really lean on him over the next few weeks. Now, I'm not expecting Paul to make it to the final, but it's going to be out for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
At least 4 or 5 matches for this team. So is that why they were kind of saving Dax at the beginning of the season, you think? Or?
I think that there's definitely a consideration for that because you were coming in with Slish as, you're a younger guy. He's coming off like 4 trophies in 4 years, like that kind of thing. They signed him to a pretty decent contract in terms of, time. So they clearly saw something in terms of wanting to keep him around. And I think they should because he's been great. I also think he has a lot he could learn from Dax McCarty.
Yeah.
And now you have the opportunity and the necessity for Dax to come in and be the guy. And every game that Dax has had significant time in, Atlanta's been stronger, at least more cohesive defensively. I mean, I know they've let in goals, but he's been the glue, right? And that's what everybody's been asking for so long. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that he's going to be huge. And then going back to our conversation earlier about the documentary, I mean, you saw what he said at the Cincinnati match, and that's again the other part of what you wanted from a guy that was coming in. And I think, so you're not going to make too many big changes. You have a team and you have depth that can get something out of the matches that are coming up. That you really do. Yeah. It's not like all is done. Not all is graveyards and cemeteries at this point. Like the season's not dead, the team's not dead. You have to trust in the depth that you have. You have to. You don't have a choice. I'm sure you're going to see some twos players called up at some point. I would be totally surprised if you don't. But you've got good talent there too. You bring up Javier Armas if you need to get in a midfielder somewhere or even as a number 10, dude, let's go. Like you have talent there. So I think for this game specifically, it's going to be, probably low scoring, but I think Rob Valentino can unshackle using shackle a lot tonight, but I
Right.
think he can unshackle this team enough to where they can pull out a win.
He said in his press conference that he wants to play a little more direct. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like from a tactical standpoint. I don't think he was saying that Pineda wasn't direct at all, but I feel
No.
like Valentino's a little more attack minded than Pineda, and he has kind of his ideas. He's not gonna, and you were saying he's not gonna upset the apple cart, but I think he realizes that there are some tweaks that need to be made here and there to get this team maybe playing to the best of its potential. Again, he wasn't trashing Pineda at all.
No.
But I think he has an idea of, okay, maybe if these players can be in this position rather than this position, maybe we need to work on our passing just a little bit, how we pass, how the distance we pass, how we possess the ball, how long we possess it. I think by and large, too, the decision making just has to be quicker. We saw this team, if they held on to the ball too long, they're just really aimed at, I feel like they were looking for a certain moment to happen before they made a decision with the ball. And that really hurt them from an attacking standpoint. So I would like to see on Saturday more freedom. And like you were saying, the shackles off a little bit longer or a little bit more, but just overall more freedom to be themselves. And, that, again, not a slight on Pineda, but I feel like the players kind of need to be in a place where they kind of take a little ownership themselves, to be honest. So that's just where I stand. Let's hope they win. Let's hope they win. I think if they get that victory,
I don't care how they win,
at home,
for sure.
yeah.
Like let's go win this game. But on that same kind of point, I mean, taking into consideration all the players that you have out of this match or out of the next few matches, really out of the next 2 months, you are set up for a very direct attack-minded type of football and a very I don't want to say they're going to be a transition team because that's not who they are. I think they're more disciplined than that. However, I think they need to take advantage more than they have before in the opportunities where they hit on a transition, because you got to think about it. I mean, you don't have Saba, but you do have Edwin Mosquera. And I know people have mixed feelings about Edwin Mosquera. The kid is fast. The kid is one of your assist leaders on this team this year, by the way. And yes, maybe the final product, the crossing, some of that stuff, decision making needs work. He's young. I'm good with it. Let him loose on a transition. Let Shande Silva loose on a transition. Let Nick Firmino loose or Caleb Wiley loose on a transition, along with Jamal Tiare up top or Daniel Rios up top, and you're going to have opportunities. Now, Dax and Derek in the back and Brooks are going to help, I think, solidify when you don't have Stian Gregerson, and maybe it's kind of piece parted together back there. But you've got legs here, like literally you have legs here to make something happen. And I don't think you need to go in and play the same type of football you played for the past 2 months, for sure. You just need to adjust minor things, no wholesale changes, just minor things, and get the mentality right. I think everybody has to move past what happened.
Right.
You had time to do it. I think everybody can accept the fact that, like, hey, it sucks that Pineda's gone, for sure. It sucks that, this happened in terms of, I would never be happy about anybody losing their job.
Sure.
But all right, now we've turned the page. Now let's go get some wins.
So what's your scoreline prediction? I'll kind of go first with mine.
Go ahead.
I'll let you kind of ruminate on yours a little bit.
I got mine, but you go ahead. I want to hear yours first.
Actually, no. Why don't you go ahead with yours first? I changed my mind. Why don't you go ahead with yours?
2-1 Atlanta.
2-1.
Yep.
So even with the potential of Gigi out and Saba definitely out, still think it's 2-1.
Yep. I'm going to go with Shande, and weirdly enough, I'm going to go with a Caleb Wiley goal.
Okay. I was thinking, I can't decide if I want to go with a 1-1 or a 1-0. Kind of lean toward 1-0 Atlanta. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Houston will kind of regress to the mean that they presented this season with this just inability to score goals consistently. They're very stout defensively. They've shown that. Of course, Franco Escobar, part of that back line. First match back in the Benz, by the way, since leaving Atlanta. But I think that, it's going to be a low scoring, nip and tuck affair. I think Atlanta comes out on top 1-0 and breaks this long winless streak at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and gives us some optimism, right, with Valentino in charge and this coaching search continuing. It'll take the weight off their shoulders. I really think it will set them on a much better course headed into the 2 matches after this one, both on the road. So
a gritty 1-0 win, all things considered, might be the best scoreline you could ask for.
Yeah, because you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. It shows you can do it, and because I think if you were to go in and win this one like 3-0 or something crazy, I think that might give you a false sense of confidence. Like I think that might maybe inflate some heads a little bit. Go in and get you a win in the trenches. Get you a win that was tough, but you did it. You turned the page, and now you can get back on the right track. Like I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care how they win, but I am all about that philosophy and kind of psychological thing behind the way football works. It really interests me, and I do think there's something to be said about this team over the past 4 years in general, in that they struggle to win hard games, and to go and win at home, which you need to do, and to make it one where you fought it, even though kind of maybe some of the cards were stacked against you, all things considered, and get that W. I think there's something to be said for that.
So we're still at GG Watch as of this recording.
We are.
As of this stream. So could be that he is officially sold by Saturday. He'll still be with the team, of course, because the window doesn't open for a few more days in Mexico. So we're waiting to see where that deal gets closed, gets done. Feels like it's just a matter of time on either side. He hasn't been in training. We'll see, again, when that deal gets finalized and announced by both Atlanta United, Cruz Azul. And, do you think he plays, by the way? Saturday.
I think it'd be very telling if he doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't think he will, actually. But it could go either way. I mean, even if he is, even if all the paperwork's more or less signed at this point, it really depends on what Cruz Azul agreed to. And if they're like, hey, we want to keep you informed coming off of an injury, cool. But also, I think it'd be kind of crazy for them to, if that is done at this point, to be okay with him doing that as opposed to just resting.
Exactly.
So
that asset of yours.
Yeah, for sure. Because at the end of the day, like, he needs to be healthy when he gets down there, if that's inevitably what happens. I did want to hit on this from Amelia real quick. I bring this up. I love this kind of, again, like this kind of stuff, because Rob has been handed the keys again to a very talented group of people. And for him, in a lot of ways, it's a blank slate, but it is absolutely an uphill battle. So Emilio is asking in the chat, for those after the fact, you think Rob is more attack-minded than Gonzo? But I'm going to add on to that question. I'll throw this at you. Is he more attack-minded? But at the end of the day, do you feel as if he is a little bit more attuned to what needs to happen in MLS to win matches than Gonzalo Pineda?
I don't know if that's
pragmatic, we'll say.
Case. Yeah, I don't know if that's really the case. I know he's not a product of MLS. I think Pineda, having played in MLS, had a better sense, so to speak, of what it looks like than Valentino.
Yeah, Tom.
Valentino. Yeah. Well, actually, no. So Valentino's with New England, Colorado. Didn't play for either side. But it's funny, he was a defender as a professional, so I feel like he brings that perspective to the table as a defender. But at the same time, I feel like in some respects, maybe yes, he is a little more attack-minded from a tactical standpoint. And I think more than anything, he's trying to prove himself. So I think he'll want to kind of try to let these guys, as we were saying, let these guys loose a little bit more. Let them go.
I think at the end of the day, I would love to talk with him and just kind of hear, like what are your ideas on just how you coach and your style and everything else. And but I do think the benefit back in 2021 was again that he just kind of said, hey, y'all are good enough. Just go play the game. Like, we need to have some parameters here, but just go play the game. You don't need to be bogged down in kind of doing too much on the pitch and thinking too much on the pitch. Like, you have to have discipline, but also you need to be able to go play football. And you have 11 guys on the pitch at any given time that are professionals and can go play football. So let's take some of the thought out of it and add just muscle memory and let them go play. And I think there's something to be said about that. And that's not knocking on, coaches like Pineda that do enjoy possession and maybe, the ins and outs of the game a little bit more. But I think there's something to be said for just allowing a group of players to just go play. And it's not like this is a pickup game. Like, they have chemistry already. They know the tendencies of each other. And I think it's one of those things that Rob Valentino could pick up on and say, y'all have been around each other long enough. You know each other. We're not going to worry about the super ins and out details. Just go play and point arrows towards goal and run that direction.
Yeah, exactly. Goals over here, guys.
Yeah, just go that way.
So yeah, Saturday, 7:30. We'll have spaces on X as always, and don't forget Thursday the 20th and the 27th, Copa America pre-match shows over at the Nest on 4 Stadium by Hilton Hotel. Stay tuned to our socials for more information, more details, and it'll be fun.
It'll be a good time. And watch along for the DC match. I do believe it's something we're looking into for sure. So if you're not on Patreon yet, go to patreon.com/scarves and spikes. We're going to be recording again, I think tomorrow or Friday. Either way, we're going to be recording some stuff coming up very soon that's going to go on there. Obviously, the support just in general, we appreciate it because it helps us a ton. Scarvesandspikes.com. We got a bunch of articles going out over there. We got, obviously, me and Sydney writing, Henry, Jackson, Callum, everybody putting some stuff out, and it's all good. So, go show some love, and thank y'all for getting us to 1,000 subscribers.
Yes, appreciate you. Tell your friends, tell everyone you know. We say all the time, we appreciate your support, and more to come.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone.
We'll hit it. We love you guys.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it. USA.
How far do you think How far do you think they're getting in the tournament?
Quarterfinals.
Same, I agree.
Quarterfinals. Anything beyond that, and I'll be super happy.
Icing on the cake, baby.
Hey, yeah, let's take it. Take it all day. USA. Thanks,
everyone. See you next time.
Tommy's still fired, by the way.